Hello there. My name is Mark the Canardian, and this is episode 96 of Holocron Chronicles. Charlie is off exploring the Outer Rim once again, but I am so excited to be joined by our special guest, Alex, aka Turbo Nerd. How you doing tonight, Alex?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. Super excited to have you on the show. Bit of a different angle of the show. Usually we try to cover whatever's new and relevant and cover some sort of like Star Wars content that's going on and give our thoughts and all that kind of stuff. But there's not much going on right now. Last week we covered the new Lego Star Wars special on Disney Plus, and there's not too much coming up until Skeleton Crew, maybe December. So we're going to be trying some different things. We're going to be trying some new stuff, and we'll get to that in a little bit. We're going to learn all about your introduction to Star Wars. But first, before we do any of that, I have to thank the amazing people that support us over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite, where you can head right now for a free 7-day trial to get ad-free versions of the show, Discord benefits, exclusive shows, all of that for as little as $2 a month. And you can also join our monthly Secret Friends Unite Patreon party. That's like a live chat that we do. People can jump in. It's always a good time. We always have fun with it. So yeah, go check those out. But I have to thank our besties tier, Chris from 1H1D, Derek Trevelyan, the Figure Dude, Francie, aka Secret Friends Unite official hairdresser, XEP, Luke Lore, thank you as always, and of course Charlie's Uncle Tim. Friends with Benefits tier, I have to thank John Sedorf, Phoenix Sisters Entertainment, Brennan Myers, Corian HD, and Matthew Keel, and of course our super secret, super friend, super squad. I screwed up that name, but you cannot add enough supers to this family. That is Sean, Stella, and Henry Nias. Thank you all so much for everything you do for us. Again, check out patreon.com/secretfriendsunite, free 7-day trial. If you feel like throwing a couple of bucks our way, that's awesome. But I will suggest that you do it through the website and not through the Patreon app, because there's a 30% extra fee that Apple charges, and that sucks. So sign up on the website, but use the app for listening to the exclusive shows and all that kind of stuff and leaving comments. I love the app, but signing up and paying an extra 30% is bananas. So do that through the website and enjoy all the content. If you don't have a couple of bucks to throw our way, that's cool too. Join us on YouTube. Give us a like, give us a share, give us a subscribe. And the best thing you can do, tell a friend about one of our shows or all of our shows. Everything's available on YouTube, your podcast service of choice. It's available all over the place. So sharing that means the world to us. And I appreciate everyone that listens. With all that said, with all that out of the way, let's get back to Alex. All right. So, Alex, you go by Turbo Nerd. I know you mostly from Instagram. Is that your main platform of choice, or do you kind of like spread yourself out a little bit?
Yeah, so I started on TikTok, I guess about a year ago.
Right.
That's where I started because, I, like everyone, downloaded TikTok during the pandemic, and then, just watched stuff for like a couple of years, and then I'm like, I saw these cool Star Wars people, and I'm like, and that would be cool, So I started, posting some stuff myself, and then I moved over to Instagram, and Instagram's been nice recently. I've met some cool people over there, and I felt like TikTok's died down a little bit recently.
Yeah, I noticed the same thing, and Instagram for me at least has been consistently nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the best way I can
Yeah.
put it. Like friendly community, good people that like will follow and interact, and I can reach out to podcast. or just talk to or whatever, like Instagram Star Wars, man, is where it's at
Yeah, it's been
for me.
nice. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Um,
I repost on like YouTube Shorts. I'm on Threads, and so yeah, so I've sort of done the breadth of social media now.
Excellent, excellent. That's great. So people can find you. Is it turbo underscore nerd underscore everywhere?
It's most places. That's where it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Uh, and I'm sure you can find those links to other places within
Yep.
one of those places. So
Everything's
go
linked everywhere
follow.
else.
Perfect. Perfect. Go follow Alex everywhere. Um, but I want to learn not only how you got into Star Wars creation, I want to learn how you got into Star Wars in general. So what was your introduction?
Yeah. So I've always been a Star Wars fan, whole life. Star Wars was one of the first movies I ever saw. Um, my mom is a bigger Star Wars fan than I am. She's the reason I
Wow.
am
All right.
as big a Star Wars fan as I am. And so, just throughout my whole life, I've always loved it.
That's great. Um, you said Star Wars was one of the first movies you ever saw.
Hmm.
Which one?
I think that would have
Did you
been
Star
that would
Wars?
have been I think Phantom Menace that I saw first. Well,
Okay.
actually, I say that it was probably Star Wars like original that I saw first because
Oh, okay. All right.
I was born when Phantom Menace came out. So
Right. Oh, okay. All right. So what was? Do you remember the first one you saw in a theater?
first one I saw in a theater would have been Force Awakens.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Such a
because
great
I was
like.
really young when the prequels were coming out. So
Yeah. Such a great jumping in point for a lot of people that I've talked to on the show. Where again, and similar to you, for me, that was like when I was born, when I was growing up, like the original trilogy was all out. I missed
hmm
those in the theater, but seeing them like VHS or just like always being there. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like there was always like something Star Wars. I think I told a story last week about like just like Star Wars toothbrushes or like little action figures or like this, that, like whatever it was. Like Star Wars was always there.
hmm
But it wasn't until like the re-releases and the prequels that I got to experience something like that in theater, and like it gets its hooks in you so
yeah.
much
Hmm.
when you can see it on a big screen. So, do you have a favorite Star Wars movie, having seen them all in whatever different formats, or is your favorite thing about Star Wars more like a show, game, book? What's like peak Star Wars for you?
Yeah. For me, it's Clone Wars.
Okay.
Because Clone Wars is what I like grew up with. Like that's what I was watching like every week when it was coming out. Like and that's what I was like obsessed with. I've Clone Wars is definitely my like peak Star Wars to me.
Clone Wars is so good.
It's so good.
Like it in so many ways it really is peak Star Wars because of how much simply because I think of how much more of it there is than
Yeah.
anything else.
Hmm.
There's so many seasons, there's so much content. There are filler episodes, sure, if you
Hmm.
want to go down that route, but like even if you cut out the filler episodes and watch it in like the most strict machete order that someone can come up with, I think time wise, there is still so much more Clone Wars content that gets into those characters
Hmm.
in so much more depth than you ever could in a movie. Um, that it's like that kind of has to be peak Star Wars for so
Yeah.
many people if you've
Hmm.
seen it, right? Do you have any favorite arc or anything like if you could tell someone like watch these episodes, this chunk from the Clone Wars, if you haven't watched anything, watch these. What
Hmm.
would you recommend?
Yeah. To me, the Umbara arc always comes to mind with that. With the real like clone trooper focused arcs,
Yep.
because I think that's such a unique thing that we get to see only in Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Before that, they were CGI background characters,
yeah,
basically like
hmm
plot devices in the movies, really.
hmm
Um, Barely any personalities,
yeah, and,
and
and the way
then
that they were able to make literal clones such individual characters with such like compelling stories, I think is so cool.
yeah, Yeah, absolutely. Um, I hope they lean into that. We'll talk about something later. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. Do you have so you have, like, clones and personalities? So many clones, so many personalities, but so many great characters in Star Wars. Do you have a single favorite character, or even a few?
Yeah. For me, I think favorite character overall, I got to go with Obi-Wan. He is just seeing his story literally throughout most of Star Wars, most of everything we have is just such
Yeah,
a cool thing to see that character from, Phantom Menace all the way through to Return of the Jedi.
yeah, yeah. Always dealing with a Skywalker, somehow still kept his cool.
Uh-huh.
Doesn't make sense, but that's just the kind of character he is. That's
Hmm.
yeah, solid answer. Um, Now, do you personally lean more light side, or you
Oh
get a
yeah.
little bit of the dark? Yeah, all right.
No,
I didn't think I
I'm
had to
light
ask
side
that.
all the
Just seeing
way.
your
Like
content, yeah, I kind of knew that one. Um,
I wish I
Absolutely.
could be cool enough to be dark side.
I've seen some of your prints, some of your cosplays, some of your outfits. You've got. I think you could pull it off. Like, look at some of your helmets in the background.
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
think I think you've got some of the swag to be able to pull off a pretty convincing dark side user,
Yeah.
even if you've got to hide that blue lightsaber somewhere. Which brings me to my next question: do you have a specific lightsaber color of choice?
Mm. Yeah, it's gonna sound boring, but blue for me is like it's the lightsaber for me. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
just when you think of
It's
a lightsaber, to me that is just what comes to mind.
yeah. It's hard to argue with that. Similarly to your answer for Clone Wars, right? Like it's kind of just the default like that in George Lucas's mind until they couldn't use a blue lightsaber against the blue sky.
Right, yeah.
Like lightsabers were blue
Mhm.
or red. You
Yeah.
know, green was introduced because of filming technology and
Right,
like the
yeah.
limitations that they ran up against. And that's my favorite color. I'm happy that they did it.
Mhm.
For me, like that's peak Star Wars is like Return of the Jedi, Luke coming out with his, like, you think he's in the dark side and then he flips around. He's like all
Mhm.
light side. He's got the new green saber. That to me always gets me excited for Star Wars. But like, it's hard to argue that blue is not just iconic and iconic for a reason.
Yeah.
So great. Um, do you have a specific lightsaber design that you absolutely love? Like, if have you ever built your own lightsaber, or like do you collect lightsabers or anything like that that you just
Yeah.
like saw one that you're like, I need that?
Yeah, I do have a saber collection. It's over there. And Obi-Wan's saber is probably my favorite saber, just that of all, and I have a replica of it. I love it so much. I also I really like Cal Kestis's saber,
Oh,
from the
so good.
Jedi Survivor games, and
Yep.
I just really I've always liked the sabers that have that kind of emitter where there's like cutouts from it,
Mm,
and I've always thought that looks cool, like especially like with replica ones.
yeah. Some of the replicas of Cal's lightsaber are phenomenal. Like the
Yeah.
detailing that they have down, especially. I know there's a few that like you can get the dual bladed one
Hmm.
as an attachment, but I love the one you start off with in
Yeah.
Fallen Order with like the
Hmm.
broken
The
bottom
broken
kind of
one,
thing.
yes, I think that's so cool.
Such a great design. I love the story as you play through the game of how you get the two-sided one,
Yes.
and
Hmm.
where everything comes from. And it's kind of like that balance between his two teachers that, it has such a meaning to it by the time
Hmm.
you end the game, that it's hard to not love that saber. But that first design is just, there's something so iconic about
Yeah.
seeing a saber that broken with a Jedi, because you're
Hmm.
used to kind of like, Kylo Ren and his like cross guard kind of like
Yeah.
sparkly saber kind of
Hmm.
thing, and like a little bit of that energy from like dark side, right? Like something's
Hmm.
broken, something's not quite right. But like the Jedi we had seen up until that point are a little bit more put together,
Yeah.
a little
Hmm.
bit like,
Everything's very clean.
like, yeah, yeah. So I love that design. when you played those games, did you default to blue
I
for
did.
talent?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Even
Yeah,
when they give you all the options, I'm like, I just got to stick with blue because that's just me, you know?
see, I was an orange pre-order guy,
Oh,
and
yeah. Hmm.
part of me was a little disappointed when the official one wasn't orange.
Yeah.
When they released it in Disney World, Galaxy's Edge, or whatever, and they were like, "This is the official one. Here's the canon
Hmm.
color," and blah blah blah. And I was like, I kind of wanted to be orange just because it was so different for such a
Yeah.
different character.
Hmm.
But again, the blue is just iconic. You can't argue
Yeah.
with it, and it is what it is. Um, you have just a ton of ridiculously awesome helmets behind you. I'm seeing some Funko Pops, some other stuff. Is that like mugs right behind you or something else
Yeah. There's some
in the middle
mugs.
shelf?
There's all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
You've mentioned a lightsaber collection. Do you have a favorite Star Wars collectible or item that you own? Can you pick just one with
Oh,
like
man,
even
that
what I'm
that
seeing?
that
I'm
is
like, I
so
don't even know how to
tough.
pick.
Yeah, I mean, as you can tell, I collect the helmets. So the helmets for me they are my favorite thing that I have. You know, my whole collection.
Solid answer. I'm
Yeah,
not going to make you pick one solid one specific helmet or
yeah.
anything.
Every time I get a
Um,
new one, I'm like, this is my new favorite.
this,
And then I'm like, I get another one. I'm like, this has got to be my new favorite.
I do love the Stranger helmet, and I saw the
Yeah,
stand that you did for that
yeah.
and the
Mm-hmm.
the Cortosis arm piece.
Uh huh.
Um, Badass. Was that a?
Yeah,
Did you design that stand
I did not design that.
or someone else
Someone else
designed
designed
that?
that.
Wow.
Millennium Workshop. This is where the files are from.
Okay.
It's
Awesome.
a really cool file design. I really liked that I could display the. I wanted to display the gauntlet with the helmet somehow, so I thought that was
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah, I got to figure out a
Yeah.
way to get it to fit on my shelf though.
Oh yeah. That's always the bad part about like, I have this awesome display. Oh, it won't fit anywhere. Crap.
Yeah,
Um, I'm sure you'll make it work. But if anyone, again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go follow Alex on some social media stuff. He just posted that one. That was today,
yeah, that
right?
was today.
I think yeah. Um, do you have like? I'm going to shift gears here a little bit and ask if you have a favorite affiliation. We've talked about some light side stuff, Jedi focused, but if you had a chance to just hang out with any group in Star Wars, could be Jedi, could be bounty hunters, could be the clones, could be a specific platoon of
Hmm.
clones, Sith, rebels, Wookiees. Who are you hanging out with for like a week?
Man, I think it'd be really cool to hang out with some bounty hunters for a while because, in some ways, because that's so not me. Like, I think like they could show I could have some a real fun with those guys.
Yep.
I think about
Yeah,
like
just
the
kind of
bounty
like,
hunters that you see in like some of the Clone Wars episodes, the like such different characters and some crazy characters that it would be
yeah.
fun to hang out with.
I think, yeah, you get to live on the wild side a little. You get to, I think that's your best bet for meeting a diverse mix of characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in like a Jedi temple or something like that. You might get some different races, but they're like all kind of like weird little more warrior monks.
Mm-hmm.
Sith, little too dark and broody to want to hang out with for more than
Yeah.
like a week or a day. Um, but like bounty hunters, I think you've got a pretty eclectic mix
Mm-hmm.
mixed with that. Like, am I gonna die today?
Yeah.
Are we gonna blow something up? Are we just gonna spend the day drinking in a bar, or are we gonna go, capture someone or blow something up or steal some stuff? I think that'd be a fun one.
Mm-hmm.
I think like that and like Hondo's crew.
Yeah.
It's
Hondo's
probably
crew.
I'd be leaning towards that answer. But like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I think that'd be fun. I think
Mm-hmm.
that'd be a whole lot of fun. Um, Last question, and one of my personal favorites. Everyone kind of seems to like this one. Star Wars, basically just suffering, tragedy, awesome laser swords, really cool helmets, and killer ponchos. If you were in Star Wars, what hilarious, haphazard way would you meet your untimely demise?
Mm-hmm. Hmm. I think. A good one would be I was thinking about like the space battles. I think that'd be a good way to go out. Crazy in the Death Star trench run.
Blaze of Glory.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. Now, would you try to save yourself and like eject and do like the bug on a windshield to a TIE fighter kind of thing? I'm trying to think of some way to add some hilarity and
That's true.
haphazardness to this.
I mean,
Great
yeah,
way
that's
to go for
mhm.
like the Death Star trench run. But I always, for this one, try to add, because I don't want you to die. But if you're
Yeah.
going to,
Hmm.
maybe it could be funny. Um, which is morbid as hell, I know. But like, yeah, I'm thinking bug on a windshield after you
We're
try
gonna
to
which
eject
that's a good
Osito.
strategy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
All right. I like it. Blaze of Glory, though, went out a hero. Um, and just ended up just gotta get the do TIE fighters have windshield? Because you could have maybe you could even take out the TIE fighter that you accidentally splatted on.
Yeah, that's true. Hmm.
Double whammy, getting two birds stoned at once.
Uh
I
huh.
think that's a winner. I like that. I think that's the first time we've ever had splatted on a windshield
Yeah. Well.
in like a blaze of glory kind of way.
Uh huh. Yeah.
It's pretty good. Yeah, I like that. I really like that. So yeah, thank you so much for sticking with me for all of those. Um, your answer for favorite character, Obi-Wan Kenobi, that brings me right to into the news, and I almost wanted to skip to the news the second you said that, but I held myself back. We just got a video clip circulating in the last couple of days of Ewan McGregor saying that Disney is exploring options for season 2 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. He wants to wear Clone War armor and have more flashbacks with Hayden. He specifically said those words on a
Yeah.
stage.
Hmm.
I lost my mind just watching the video clip. I can't even imagine being in that crowd.
I know.
What? I'm guessing him being your favorite character that you would like to see a season 2 of Kenobi.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. 100%.
Do you have
Yeah. I
any
mean, I
thoughts on what you'd personally like them to explore in a second season?
yeah. I honestly I don't have like a good concrete idea of where that would go, but I just want to see more Kenobi. Like. And I do think having some more flashback stuff would be really awesome to see some of that Clone Wars time because him and Hayden just work so well together. It's so
Oh,
cool to see them.
yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Anytime we can get those two together, more Hayden, better. That's
Yeah.
great. For me, I don't know exactly how this fits in with Clone Wars armor, flashbacks with Hayden. Maybe they can just be flashbacks and you write them into the story somehow. But I think they set up a season 2 in season 1.
Hmm.
And it's a way to bring in a character that we both already mentioned that we both love, and that's Cal Kestis. I want them to explore the path.
Oh yeah.
Get
Hmm.
Obi-Wan in on a mission to help some younglings or help some Jedi wayward people onto the path. Quinlan Voss shows up on Tatooine and says, like, Obi-Wan, I know you're in retirement and I know you're protecting this asset, but I really need your help. Please come help me and Asajj and whoever else is in the path. Like live action Asajj,
Oh, that'd
live
be
action
awesome.
Quinlan Voss, live action Cal Kestis, because the games talked about kind of like leading into the path and
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Hmm.
very similar storylines of like helping people get to somewhere where they're safe and they can train and get away from the empire. I think there's so many paths converging that would be freaking awesome to watch.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's the way to
Definitely.
do it. And the flashbacks and stuff can just happen organically of like
Hmm.
Obi-Wan working with Cal or working with Quinlan or someone else or seeing two people work together and being like, shit, that was Anakin and I missed that. And here's a
Hmm.
flashback to us working together. And now I'm kind of on my own or watching other people have that kind of
Hmm.
partnership and that brothership that I felt with him. Like there's ways to do that and have those little flashbacks and moments or see someone that he and Anakin saved at one point, and now Anakin and his Inquisitors are chasing this same person down. There's some ways to play with that can give Ewan McGregor everything he wants, but I think
Yeah.
like they set that up in season 1 just freaking explore it. It's right there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, that would be so satisfying.
Yeah, yeah. Now I want to see that. Yeah.
I'm sorry that I put that in your head now, because if it doesn't happen, you're going to blame me for putting that in the universe and it not coming true. But we'll see. Hopefully they deliver. If it's not that, hopefully they deliver something really really cool. I just more Obi-Wan, more
Yes.
Ewan McGregor, Hayden
Hmm.
Christensen. Just yep, thumbs
You
up
can't go
all
wrong.
around. No, for sure. Um, and I desperately want live action Cal Kestis. I know they're working
Yeah.
on a third and final game right now.
Hmm.
Just keep that character. Unless, I mean, even if he dies in the third game, just give us like
Hmm.
a little here's the in between. Like there was a novel for the
Hmm.
in between the last two games.
Yeah.
Maybe Obi-Wan is like in between game 2 and 3, and
Yeah.
then 3 kind of finishes the story off, right?
Oh
Like you
yeah,
can,
because I wouldn't be surprised if we got another time skip in the third
yeah,
game. And so there's
absolutely.
definitely stories to tell in there.
Yeah, definitely. Um, which I think would also be hilarious is like Obi-Wan is like a tie-in novel between two games. Like
Yeah.
you think of like Obi-Wan being like the big thing, but it's
Yeah.
it's kind of like bridging together two games. And it's like, what the hell
Hmm.
is Star Wars right now?
I know.
Like a big high profile show would be like a bridge between two video games.
I know, right?
Um, sounds ridiculous, but like I think it could work. I really do.
Hmm.
Um, all right. The reason I've been so excited to get you on the show, um, I mentioned it earlier. This is kind of a different episode. We're going to be talking about building up Mandalorian armor. We both started building up our OC Mandalorian armor kits around the same time, early last year. Um, coming up with concepts. I've had my concept for, oh man, damn close to a year now.
Yeah.
Um, and really started like reaching out to people after a con that happened in November. So I met some people that built their own suits at a con that I'm going to again in a few weeks. So it's really really close to a year of like, man, I kind of want to be a Mandalorian now after seeing these guys like up close and personal at a con.
Hmm.
Um, so I kind of want this to be like a little thing that I can do on this show every once in a while, and I'm so happy that you could join me for this first foray into exploring how we build up these cosplays and suits and stuff that we show our love of Star Wars through. So first off, I'm gonna focus a lot on the Mandalorian stuff, but like you 3D print a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
You collect helmets. So feel free at any point to like interject with like, okay, well, when I was doing this with this stuff and like, doing the stranger helmet or whatever, but I've been following along your Mando build for a long time because we're building them very closely at the
Yeah.
same time. Um, so first off, what made you decide about a year ago to jump in and start building?
Yeah. So I I had kind of known about like people doing custom Mandos. I had been going to cons and stuff, and I'd seen them before, and I thought like, man, that's really cool. I would love to do that. And it just, you have that thing where it's like, but I can't do that. Like, like they did that, but I can't. And then I got into 3D printing, and and then suddenly it was like, well, maybe I could do this.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so I
Uh,
got my first printer, I think in like 2021.
oh wow.
So a little before, a good while before I started building it,
Yeah.
and it was a really small printer. It was like 5 inches by 5 inches by 5 inches was the build volume. So it would have been hard to do a kit on that.
Yeah.
But it got me started in 3D printing, and then from there I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And then I decided like I'm gonna get a bigger printer to make it easier on myself.
Yeah.
Uh, and like I'm gonna do this project that I've been wanting to do.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
That probably helped. knowing that basis of 3D printing,
Mhm.
my story was like very opposite because, like I said, I saw these guys with these kits, and I've always been like kind of interested in 3D printing because I love new tech and I love, gadgets and things, and especially
Mhm.
something where like I can start with, spools of plastic like
Yeah.
whippersnipper cable and then end up with like this. Like what the
Yeah.
hell? How does that work?
Uh-huh.
Um, so like always something of interest to me, but always one of those things where it's like, I could spend money on something else. I can do, whatever, right? Um, so then after this con and speaking to some people who I met there and asking like, okay, do you make these? Do you do commissions? That kind of stuff. And like asking that, looking on things like Etsy and different places like that. And then realizing like to commission a suit, I could probably buy a printer and the filament I need, and that would pay for the same cost as, a suit.
Yeah. Mhm.
Plus, then I can print anything else that I want,
Mhm.
and then I have the printer in perpetuity. And in my mind, that justified the cost, and
Yeah.
it paid for itself, sure.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
that was like so. Like I got this 3D printer thinking I'm going to print Mandalorian armor, and knowing nothing, have never printed anything before. So like that was a big learning curve for me. So it's
Yeah.
awesome that you started off with a couple of years of like I know some shit,
Mhm.
which I think could have. Do you think that kind of like helped you kind of jump in and get started right away?
Oh, yeah, it definitely did. It definitely gave me a bit more confidence going into it, because there's always I mean, don't get me wrong, I had fails and things that I had to redo and stuff, but I definitely felt more like I I've got a little bit of a foot in the door, so to speak.
And also probably made it a little bit easier to decide what medium to do the kit in, because when
Right,
I
yeah.
again I needed to get something and learn a new craft to do this.
Mhm.
So I talked to people that built kits out of like Sintra, foam,
Mhm.
um, basically any cardboard. Like I was talking
Yeah.
to every Mando I could find and trying to decide what was going to work for me. And 3D printing, again, was one of those things of like, well, I think the skills that I learned trying to build this suit are going to just help me. And, I'll be able to build fun toys for my kid, or things for around the house, or
Mhm.
things for work, or stuff to, sell or give away to people or whatever. So that kind of helped my decision. But like knowing 3D printing, having that technology, did you consider any other forms of material for your suit, or was it all like, no, I'm going to 3D print it. I know the tech. This is what I'm using.
Yeah, I more just went into it planning to 3D print. I definitely looked into some of the other options, like EVA foam, uh, like you said, Centra, things like that. Um, and I think those can be really really great, especially like if you're not exactly like tech savvy and you don't want to mess with the printers and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people who have made incredible looking stuff out of foam that I'm like,
Yeah.
that's foam, like that's crazy to me, like.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me it was I was planning 3D printing the whole time.
Excellent. Yeah. There are some impressive suits built out of literally everything that you could
Yeah.
like.
Hmm.
There's a Mando I follow online, and I'm forgetting the name right now. It's escaping me, but like she built her suit out of yarn.
Oh wow.
It's incredible. I gotta look that one up. If I can remember it, I'm gonna include it like in the show notes or something like that. I'm not gonna like
Yeah.
go browse my phone right now, but
Yeah.
like it's great. So like you can build a kit out of anything. Don't let that stop you.
Uh-huh.
But we're gonna be talking about some 3D printing. Did you have a solid concept of like an OC when you started, or did you start off being like, I think I'm just gonna like duplicate the Mandalorian, like Din's costume, or like did you know right away it's like I got to do something different and unique and make it my own?
Yeah, so I didn't so much think of it as like an OC. I haven't really done like in the way of like a character. I did sort of I did plan out my armor beforehand. Um, and I went with I say I planned it. I kind of planned it out. I did base most of the armor is the Denjarin style, but I knew I didn't want to. I wanted to make my own Mando. You know, I didn't want to just
Yeah.
recreate his. But I did decide to go with because all the files are from Denjarin's armor except for my Shin armor. Those are different.
Okay.
Just for me, honestly, to have sort of just like a starting point, because when I started researching just like what you could get, I was almost like overwhelmed with all the options. You know, there's
Oh yeah.
looking at like Etsy and just online for the different files.
Yep.
And so I thought I'm going to take Din Djarin's armor and kind of make it my own, you know. So that's kind
Yep.
of where I started
Absolutely.
with it.
I started in a very similar place. Actually, the first test print I did was the Din Djarin style chess piece,
Hmm.
and I have one of the shoulder pieces still printed. It's actually right now on my step. My son was playing it with it this weekend,
Hmm.
um, and I very quickly shifted to the more Boba Fett style.
Hmm.
I don't know why exactly. My first test print was way too big
Yeah.
for the chess piece. Um, and then when I instead of just like shrinking it down like a normal person, I was like, okay, well now I'm doing Boba Fett style. Um, so like mine, as much as I had like a general kind of like I want to do a Mandalorian, I want to do a kilted Mandalorian because I already own the kilt. So I was like, I think I bought the kilt for like a kilted Jedi look, and
Hmm.
then I kept doing different Jedi looks and was like, I'm getting bored of just like doing different Jedi. Like, here's a Jedi with light clothes. Here's one with dark clothes. Here's an
Hmm.
inflatable T Rex with a lightsaber that I'm calling the Jurassic Jedi. Here's Bananakin Skywalker with a banana suit and like. Not that I got like super bored of that, and I still love all like doing that kind of stuff. But
Hmm.
like, I was like, what can I use this kilt for? That's not just another Jedi. Maybe that's the Mandalorian. Maybe that's where it fits in, and I throw that in, and maybe I can do like maybe like a Celtic warrior
Yeah.
design. That'd be cool, right? Because like again, you can't do that as much with a Jedi design. I could do my pirate Jedi and rip up the robes and kind of make it look a little bit more piratey. But doing like body paint, unless I want to go around a con with a shirt off, which I definitely don't,
Yeah.
like that's not going to be an option. So how do I portray that? Oh, I can paint some Celtic like warrior symbols and like body paint, but I can do that on armor.
Hmm.
Um, so that's like so I had that, but like I didn't have that solid like I'm gonna do Din's armor, I'm gonna do Boba's armor. It was just
Hmm.
kind of like what pieces could I maybe make look neat?
Yeah.
Uh, so it's like, yeah, I love that you had a plan. But did you like draw yours out or just kind of like knew your concept of like these colors are gonna look badass together?
Yeah. I used one of those online, you know, Mando creators
Oh, cool.
to kind of test out mostly the colors, because the colors is what I had a lot of trouble deciding on for me, honestly. Like I knew I wanted it to be in a blue, like my main color to be a blue, because I was really inspired by the fleet Mandos, like from
Mm,
Mando season 3.
yep.
I really liked their armor design. I thought it was really cool. You know, it's kind of that Death Watch inspired look. Again,
Yep.
going back to Clone Wars, you know, because that was like when I was watching Clone Wars, I thought Death Watch was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen in Star Wars before.
Yep.
Yeah,
Super cool.
yeah.
Um, I
So
love
I
that.
knew I wanted to kind of homage that. So finding the right blue and gray combo that I wanted to go with was kind of my was my big struggle in designing it.
It's a great color combo. Fantastic. I love it. Um, I love that. I mean, I've done a couple of my parts. Like this is an arm piece that I have like the blue with silver underneath it, and
Hmm.
a lot of my pieces like are silver with little blue accents or
Yeah.
blue with like little silver underneath, and then there's like the white and blue chest. But around that, there's a lot of silver. Like, even I have my helmet here. Like, that's silver and blue.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
different silver and blue than yours, but silver and blue, great
Yeah,
combination.
I've got mine over here too. So,
Nice. Ah, I love that. I love your helmet. I do. I love your whole color combination is fantastic. And you did such a good job painting this whole thing. I learned a ton from you with
ugh,
watching you paint. I'm like not even joking. Like, I would paint something and I almost want to repaint some of my armor, because the techniques that I learned to do this piece
hmm
and my shin piece, these are the last things that I printed and painted. I looked at what you were doing with your paint job, watched some of your videos of like how you were doing things, and like learned a ton from you and like from a few other people, but like it
yeah,
was a lot of watching you and your process. So can you share some like techniques that you learned or that you use to finish, prime, paint, all that kind of stuff? Like, what's your process for
yeah.
people that maybe haven't been following along?
hmm Yeah. So, the biggest thing that I learned when I did it first, because I actually redid my helmet. Did a I did my first helmet. Got all the way ready for paint. Went through all the sanding steps. Uh, painted. I painted the silver base layer because I had planned to do all silver and then mask off areas that I wanted, that chip paint effect. And then when I went to put on my blue, all the paint ran off. Like, it just
Whoa,
didn't stick. It got just something with the paints reacted wrong.
no way.
Yeah. And
Wow.
and I was just like so upset because I had put so much work into it.
Yeah.
And so that's when I learned you gotta test your paints before you do it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. What kind of paint are you using?
they were both Rust-Oleum, just spray paints.
Okay. Wow.
And that's why I did not expect any kind of bad reaction.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, after that, I tested all the paints that I was going to be using. So that
I
is
bet.
that is
I bet.
one of the biggest lessons I learned doing this for the first time.
Holy crap. Um, that's wild. Like, the worst thing that I had were like, sometimes the paint would like clump or run a certain way. Like,
hmm
but that was kind of like me being a little too heavy or a little bit
hmm
too, like distracted doing one coat or whatever. Um, but one thing I've learned with 3D printing and painting and all that kind of stuff is patience,
Yeah.
which sometimes I do not have a lot of when it comes to this stuff, because especially as I feel like, I'll again, that example of this little arm piece. So this was the last addition to my suit.
hmm
Um, and it was the moment that it all kind of finally came together for me. And you can see this in the pictures that I posted, and I can't remember if I posted a comparison or not. But so I had these big arm pieces, right?
hmm
And they were at first on my arm, and I'd see the pictures and I'd be okay, happy with them, because it was kind of a mix of like, Din just had like the one thing just kind of there, and
hmm
um, Boba Fett kind of had it. It was a little further up, right?
Yeah.
But I kind of thought like maybe I'd do it down and it'd be fine. Um, the moment I decided to move these pieces up on my shoulder and have them out was the moment it was like, oh, now it looks complete. Now it looks badass. Now
hmm
there's whatever that shoulder bit added just made it all come together. But then I had the issue of there was already a Velcro bit on my arm that
Yeah.
it would look like sloppy if I took off. So that's why I printed these. So by the time I got to painting these, it was like, I need to rush this through. I don't want to use primer. I don't want to do anything. I'll fill the lines in enough with the
Hmm.
spray paint. And like, I don't even want it to like fully dry in between layers. Like I was just ready at that point to be like, just finish so I can
Yeah.
stick this on my arm, have the shoulder piece up here, have this on my arm, and it's finally just done. Right. Cause I
Hmm.
thought it was done and it was bugging me for like weeks of like, I had this thing like, I don't, and I'd love to see if you hit a point of like, I'm done, but I'm not. Like,
Hmm.
did you hit that point with anything, or was like, did you have that moment of eureka of like, this is complete now?
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely had that a couple times because for me, I think I have this piece, one of my arm guards here, one of my gauntlet pieces. These to me were the absolute worst to sand and get rid of the layer
Mm,
lines
yeah,
because there's all these, these little details and
they
things.
sucked.
And
Yeah,
I probably spent a week on this piece alone just
mercy.
because I wanted
Yeah,
it. I'm a perfectionist and I didn't want to see a single airline,
yeah,
and so, and I went through a lot of different like methods to fill them in. I tried wood filler, bondo, sculpting putty, I think it's called,
yep.
and until I found the one that worked for me.
So what is it? Do you mind sharing your secret for there?
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
what
What
worked?
works for me best is wood filler.
Okay,
Just wood filler, thinned out with water, and then
interesting,
brushed over the print in like a couple of thin layers. Let that
interesting.
dry, sand it back down, and it fills in the gaps. At least the way I've been doing it, really well for me.
Okay. Like 50-50 thinned with water. I'm stealing all this.
Yeah, yeah. It's
And
just
hopefully anyone else listening. But
yeah, just get about 50-50 just until it runs a bit, and it thins
all right.
out.
Yeah.
You kind of get used to it, how it's best works for you.
Right. So you do that, you sand it down, you get it ready, filler primer
Yep.
or spray next.
Yeah. So like my process, initial sanding, I go 80 grit, 120, then 220.
Yep.
I wash it, and that's a tip I learned when I was just researching how to do all this, is to wash it,
Yeah.
get all that dust off, let it dry. Then I go in with the wood filler, let that dry, sand it, wash it again, then filler primer.
Right on.
And then
Let that
it's
dry.
normally pretty close to ready after that. And then
Yeah.
it's going in and filling in like little spots.
Yep. Is that Bondo or again you're using the wood filler for
Yeah,
that?
typically on that last step, I'll go in with Bondo
Right. Yeah.
because if you've used Bondo too, I feel like there's no problem that a lot of Bondo can't fix.
Yeah, absolutely. I used something similar. I work at a car dealership, so it was one of the things, something similar to Bondo, but the guy
Uh-huh.
that gave it to me said it was like industrial quality,
Yeah.
which I probably should just stick to normal quality because I don't have like garages and stuff. So I'm like working outside, and
Uh-huh.
like fumes are everywhere, and it was messy stuff. But yeah, that stuff is magic, especially when you get to that last kind of
Mhm.
like, I have a one little thing I just need to
Uh-huh.
fix. Um, that is fantastic. Thank you for sharing all of those secrets.
Yeah.
I
Oh.
hope someone listening can like hear this and be like, I can do that. I'm going to build my own Mando.
Oh yeah,
Which
because I mean,
I
for
think
me,
would be awesome.
I took these tips from a bunch of different sources myself. So
Yeah. Yeah. And you do, I think, have to find stuff that works for you.
hmm
I think that's very important. So like even hearing your process and like that might not work for everyone. That
yeah.
might, because I did the same thing. I watched, like Frankly Built and several
hmm
other people on like YouTube and stuff. Um, and just like trying to copy those and like not everything works, or I didn't have access to the exact same kind of things, or like,
hmm
one person I'll be watching using like a little airbrush to do things. It's like, well, I'm
Yeah.
not buying an airbrush. I spent enough money on the 3D printer. I'm using
hmm
spray paint and that's what I'm doing. Or like, I used acrylics for my weathering, and then because that can wash off, I did a clear coat layer
Hmm.
that adds a little bit more of that metal shine, but
Yeah.
also seals things in. So
Hmm.
my weathering is like underneath this clear coat, right?
Hmm.
So like you get those little like things of like necessity versus trade secrets
Yeah.
or
Hmm.
skills that you just kind of make up and like, maybe this will work or I can print it again. So that's kind of the nice bit
Hmm.
about figuring it all out as you go. You mentioned you don't have like a full backstory for your character. Is that something that you want to work on, or are you just kind of content like this is my Mandalorian armor? I'm gonna wear it around to cons and do content. Like where are you at with that side of things?
Yeah, it's something I've actually recently been thinking about because I've seen other Mando cosplayers that have these really cool, like elaborate, fully thought out backstories. And I'm like, that's so cool that you have like that much of a connection to it.
Yeah,
Um, and I think it's really interesting. It's not something I've really thought of a lot myself. It's might be something I do in the future. Maybe with this kit, maybe with another kit. But I think it's really, really interesting that the people that do that,
yeah, yeah. I've seen some like pretty in depth ones. The furthest I have is like a name
Hmm.
for my kilted Mando, Fergus Turan, which
Yeah.
which came like Fergus. The reason I wanted to do this like kilted Celtic Mando is like my mother's side of the family last name is Ferguson.
Hmm.
So Fergus obviously taken
Yeah.
from that. And that's why there's a B on my chest. That's straight from the family crest. Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of inspiration of my family put into this Mando. Um, and then Turan, the first time I got, I'm not going to say a completed suit because we know like I kept iterating on it. But the first time I tried on, I'll say a nearly completed suit, gauntlets, shoulder bits, the helmet, all the chest piece, everything,
Hmm.
tried it on with the kilt to finally kind of get a sense of where I was going with this thing. The second I got it all on, I put my helmet on and some thunder hit outside, and it was this crazy cool lightning storm. So Turan would be like the Celtic word for like thunder, lightning, storm kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Um, so like that's when I came up with like the last name, and that was
Oh,
as
that's
far as
cool.
I
That's very cool.
went. Yeah. I was like, I gotta integrate that in some way because that was like just like the heavens open up of me putting on this
Yeah.
like family inspired armor that I thought felt pretty neat. Um, you mentioned your next project or like a future project that you might want to do a background character for. Do you have ideas for your next one, or are you kind of content with this one? And where are you at with your project
Yeah.
itinerary?
I know I'm eventually gonna do another one just because I had such a good time making this one. And I just love the making stuff, So I definitely plan on doing another one at some point.
Nice.
Don't have any concrete ideas right now. I know I want to do a slightly more like heavily weathered Mando, because
Yeah,
my kit's a little like cleaner, and I designed it that way. I wanted it to be like that.
yeah,
But I think I've seen some of these cosplayers that have like just this armor that looks like it's 1,000 years old, and I think that's so cool.
yeah.
So I'd love
Um,
to do something like that.
yeah, my kit at first was very, very clean. I had
Mhm.
zero weathering whatsoever. And it was for me a decision between like the whites looking a little too clean. Um, and I was scared it was going to get dirty or,
Mhm.
this little imperfection was going to show up. And then it was just kind of like, well, maybe I'll weather the thing. Maybe I'll beat it up a little bit
Yeah.
before it can get beaten up, you know?
Mhm.
So, um, but same kind of thing. I'd see these Mandos like, what's it? Like Mandalore the Fireborn, I think has
Yeah.
a
Mhm.
great kit. Holy
Yeah.
crap. That's
It's really
like
impressive.
weathering done right. Absolutely perfect. So guys like that like have this fully completed kit character weathering, like you said, looks like there's a history to this
Mhm.
suit. It's like, oh shoot, I gotta try and fail to emulate that a little bit, but
Yeah.
like I'll have fun while I'm doing it.
Mhm.
Those things are super impressive. And for me, that's kind of like I want to make this as good as I'll say as good as I can to make where I feel good about it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because I also know for my kit, um, I I'm not going to approve it or try to get it approved for any
Mhm.
like official clubs because from everything I've read from like the guidelines and stuff, a kilt disqualifies me right away. You
Yeah.
have to be wearing like pants. You have to be, this, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, so do you have any plans to go that further step of like club approval, Lucasfilm approved, kind of like stringent stuff? Or is this just all like, I'm just doing this for fun. I'm doing it for the process and that's where I'm at.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely started out just doing it just for me, just because I thought this would be fun. But the clubs and things I've been looking into that actually recently, just because I do think it's cool to have all those other Mandos, be in a group with them. That would be really really cool thing to do.
Yeah.
But I know, and I know it varies from club to club. Just on some of the research I've done, they get like strict with some of those requirements.
Oh yeah. There are some very like stringent, like easy clubs to get into. I'm not, or like more laxed and relaxed and stuff.
Yeah.
And there are clubs specifically made for weird Mandos.
Hmm.
Like, do you not fit into the Lucasfilm? You're in our club now.
Uh-huh.
Like there's if you want to be part of a club, the Lucasfilm Limited approved ones, not the only way to go.
Right. Yeah.
For sure. For anyone listening that's like thinking about it and be like, that sounds intimidating.
Hmm.
Don't worry about it. But those ones are kind of like, you set that goal. Once you set
Hmm.
that goal, I think it's like something to strive to because they are so strict.
Hmm. But yeah, and I also know that a lot of like I joined one of the discords for, I think it's the Rogues of Mandalore,
Cool.
and they got some really like helpful people that are like so willing to share their knowledge and stuff too. So it can be a really great community and stuff
Hmm.
to so so it's definitely something I'm looking into.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing everything that you do, not just Mando stuff, but like any of the builds you do. You are an incredibly talented 3D printer. I hope you feel the credit and the I hope you get the recognition in the Star Wars community because the stuff that you do, you said earlier, you're a perfectionist, and it shows in every single helmet or thing that you print and that you display. You are for anyone interested in that kind of level of perfectionism on any of this stuff. I think you're an amazing account to follow.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. I mean it. Like I said, I learned so much watching you build your kit alongside me building it and just watching again like the Boba Fett style and the Mando style. I
Hmm.
even love that like kind of comparison of like, oh, he's
Yeah.
going with this style. I'm going to like
Hmm.
I loved seeing that like go up around the same time.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
really glad that my videos could help, that, because that's one reason I wanted to even film it in the first place, because I know when I was doing it, seeing other people, especially people who've never done it before, gave me the confidence to think like, okay, I can do that too, so.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the last thing I want to ask is do you have any advice for someone that's listening saying like I want to build a Mando or I want to build a stormtrooper or a Jedi or a
Mhm.
Sith or something? What's a great place where should they start or should they just dive right into it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, this applies to Mandos and really any kind of cosplay or anything you want to do. I think, one thing is you just got to do it, and it's not going to be perfect the first time you try it. I mean, like I said, I've completely failed my first helmet that I tried to make, and I had to redo it. But I learned so much doing it, and then it got better. And um, so yeah, I think just trying it, like it's gonna be, especially when you're like a perfectionist like me, you almost don't want to because you're like, "Ah, is it gonna be good enough?" But when you do it, it's gonna be so much fun. and you're going to learn so much. And another thing is really, I think that helped me is doing a project that you're passionate about. You
Mm,
know, because like for me, I've been wanting to do a Mando build for a really long time, and so that kind of gave me that like drive to keep going through it. You know,
yeah,
so
for
yeah, I
sure.
think just find something you want to do and just start it. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I've always, yeah, same kind of like I've always loved the Mandalorian designs, but never. I wasn't sure where to start. I wasn't sure how to start. Like I said, the first thing that I did was like, who can make this for me, or how can I get this made, or how can
Yeah.
I order this?
Hmm.
And learning to make it, learning to 3D print, going through all the like failed prints and clogs and this and that of like, how the hell do I 3D print something
Hmm.
to now, when I get my printer, like March, I finally actually got the printer in my hand. So this is like, November, I'm at a con. I'm like asking people afterwards through like December, trying to research 3D printers through like January, February, settling on one, waiting for a sale, getting it in my hands
Hmm.
to like right now. I was out like a weekend or two ago in my completed. I'll say
Yeah.
completed with air quotes because
It's
like
never really
I'm
completed.
gonna get bored and do something else. Um, and actually, I broke my axe. The axe
Oh
handle
no.
was in two pieces and screwed together. Should
Hmm.
be an easy reprint, but I did snap it in two that day. So there's always something. But
Hmm.
the just jumping in, I think, like you said, it's not going to be perfect. You're always going to want to iterate on
Hmm.
it. There's always going to be something, but like even just the process of doing it, and I could have been better with this for sure, but like documenting as I built it up, and you're a great example of like, here's this thing on the printer,
Hmm.
and the display case that you did today is such a great, a great example, very recent example of like, here's this building up on the printer.
Hmm.
Here's the completed project. Here's how I'm going to display this. Um, that kind of stuff. If someone's thinking about, you know, should I do this? Like, if you're interested in even content creation,
Yeah.
it adds a ton of built-in content, and then you have something badass to wear to a con at the
Uh-huh.
end of it. Um, so that creation path, I think, is something I have to get better at. Is those in between steps? Because I was like, I want to like, okay, here's kind of like the completed thing, or here's
Hmm.
something before it's painted and after it's painted. But like, you went that other level of like showing, the actual almost, empty print bed, and like,
Yeah.
here I am looking like a badass Mandalorian. Like,
But yeah, I think that's one of the coolest parts of it. It's just seeing like you said, just this thing of plastic to then have something completed, and like to see that whole journey is just so cool to me, you know. And
yeah,
that's why I wanted to document the whole thing. I just, and like
yeah,
you said, it kind of kept me on track and helped like it helped with I could like go back and look at like things like, you know, oh, this is how I did this, you know, this is where I messed this up and I could do this better next time, you know, like
yeah. Yeah, there, like if you scroll through my Instagram, you can see the iterations of like the Mando style chest build, the Mando arm piece, and then the
mhm,
shift to the Boba style, and like different ways I'd shift around. At one point, I had two different shoulder pieces, and then I was like, no, I don't like the mismatched shoulder pieces. I'm just gonna do one because I couldn't get one to fit right. Like I've been all over the place through this,
yeah.
and I know that there was a thought process behind it, but like you can kind of like I can fill in the in between gaps, but someone trying to follow along on Instagram is just like, how the hell did you get from A to wherever the hell you're at now?
Mhm.
Um, but I promise there was a journey, and I should have been way better. Maybe in the next build I'll try to
Yeah.
be better at that. Man, thank you so much, Alex. I appreciate you coming on and joining me for like the first of what I hope is several of these kind of conversations with people that create cool things in the Star Wars universe. So thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a blast.
Please, for anyone that didn't catch it earlier in the show, tell people where they can find you, and like what, if anything, you want to share that you might be working on?
Yeah, so I'm a turbo nerd on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever, all over the place. Yeah, I post all kinds of lots of the 3D printing stuff, some just like Star Wars jokes, collecting things, kind of all over the place. But I'll be working on some new projects. I'm always thinking of things to build and stuff. So, and I'll keep making content of it.
Excellent, excellent. I look forward to it all. Thanks again for joining us. For everyone listening, you can follow me, Canardian_Jedi on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and over on the Secret Friends Unite Discord channel. You can follow all of the Secret Friends Unite stuff on secretfriendsunite.com, or like I said, YouTube, or any podcast services that you subscribe to. Thank you so much for listening. May the force be with you. Rex, play us out. Charlie'd usually sing. I ain't singing.